My name is Kathleen Fasse. I was an associate substance editor this semester with Cornerstone Press in the publication of Syncopation, and I'm going to read an excerpt for you. Charles and Toto were in the conservatory, but she ignored them and went straight to her music. Charles, sitting in a soft chair in the corner and reading, did not look up. Toto, writing at a table with paper spread out, looked up at his sister, but did not say anything. When she played, he leaned back in his stiff chair, closed his eyes, and listened. He hadn't realized how much he had missed her music. He didn't recognize what she was playing, but the sound was like a late winter window newly opened to fresh air. When she finished, Toto said, "I've missed your music." Adèle turned around pleased. "Thank you." She looked at Charles in the corner, and he glanced up from his book. "Me too. Play something else." She turned back to the piano and played a short gavotte. The tune lifted her heart and actually made her feel like dancing. When she finished, Charles was standing beside her with his hand on her shoulder. "God, we should do something different today. Get out. This place is stagnating." Adèle didn't want to talk about life at Hotville House and what could they possibly go and do. She saw the book Charles held closed, with his finger marking the place where he had stopped. "What are you reading?" she asked cheerfully. "Papa's poems. Les Contemplations really is one of his best works." Adèle scowled, her happiness melting like chocolates left in the sun. "I've not read a single poem from that. He wouldn't let me edit the drafts, so I'll be damned if I want to read them now." Toto stood up from the table and walked to the piano. "He didn't ask you to read the drafts?" he asked, surprised. "He hasn't asked me to read anything since we started Exile." Toto frowned. "Les Contemplations is his most lyrical work. We all assumed you had helped him." Adèle shook her head. "Not a word." "And you haven't read any of the poems?" asked Charles. "You should. There's one about Leopoldine that's very good." He started browsing through the book, looking for the poem. "I didn't know that poem was in there." "So you did help," said Toto. "It's one of my favorites, but I read it for the first time after it was published. I haven't seen the early drafts of that one." "Me neither." And then we're going to move a little bit forward. She stood inches from him and glared into his eyes. This was after her father entered the room. They were like windows into his mind. His thoughts were open for her to see, and she saw that he believed what he said. The realization of what his words meant hit her like a brick from the sky. She was his daughter, and therefore anything that was hers was his. She fell to the floor on her knees, and lifting her head to the ceiling, screamed. The noise came from deep inside her, swelling and bursting from her throat like lava from a volcano. The heat and the pain and the anger filled the room, the house, the island. The sound coalesced, and wielding itself like a knife newly drawn from the fire, cut all who could hear. Charles turned away, pretending not to notice, but shuddering from the sound just the same. Toto put his hand on her shoulder, bearing the brunt of the noise, but trying to calm her. Victor left the room to order August to search of a doctor. When her breath was gone, she quickly filled her lungs and continued to scream. On and on she screamed. There was power in the scream, and in the heart of the scream there was freedom. She could reach it. And then Toto shook her hard, and the scream wobbled, its force faltering. She opened her mouth for more air, but it came in jagged breath, and she began to sob. She sobbed as Toto pulled her to her feet. She sobbed as her mother walked her up the stairs and put her in bed. She sobbed as the doctor arrived and gave her something to drink, something to make her sleep. She sobbed as she drank it, and she sobbed as she drifted off to sleep. When she awoke, her room was awash in moonlight, with deep shadows in the corner. Her head hurt, but one thought was clear in her mind. She would no longer belong to her father. A plan was forming in her mind. I chose this section because it's where Adèle has gone to the place where she's done so much in her life, and she's been refused and repressed by her family and her father's bride, and it broke her. It's a book that's very into social issues of the time, women and gender studies, and I think it's very important, and I'm very proud to have been a part of this publication.